Welcome to another episode of No Talking During the Movies. I am your host, Stephen Austin.
And I am the fattest man in a TV-sized box. My name is Tank.
Tank is Captain America, and I am Iron Man.
Yeah,
Honestly, it just feels right to say that duo after everything that we've
yeah.
gone through for the past couple of weeks.
It's been quite a journey.
It has been. It's been really
Yeah.
fun. We gotta find like another series of films to do this with, because this was a lot of fun.
You know what I was thinking is I hope that people get out of watching this what I get out of doing it, because I went back and watched Guardians 2
Yeah.
with fresh eyes and loved it. Loved it
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really like, okay. And then, we talked about you really like that fathers and sons moment with the song and stuff like that. And
So powerful.
it just hit different when after I watched it again, after hearing your perspective on it. So hopefully people get that same vibe that we get from doing it.
When I rewatched all of these films, and I can't believe I'm saying that I rewatched every single film in the MCU for this. Movies that I remembered not liking, I had a great time with. We're talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp today. When I saw that in theaters, I did not like it. Captain Marvel, did not like it. But when I went back and watched them, I had a pretty good time with them all, and I think it's because I know the ending. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Sure,
after
sure.
everything, it's like, I know where all the characters go and what it means, and it's just so great to see how far it's come, and this rewatch has been pretty special for it.
You can appreciate the puzzle pieces more
Yeah,
individually because you know where they fit.
totally. So our question today, because last week we did our question, what was our one change we would do to Phase 3, but that was all of Phase 3. So this question today I thought would be just a little bit sweeter, since it's the end. What is your happiest memory from the MCU? Could be just a really cool moment in the films, or just something you experienced while watching the films, whatever.
Well, like I would do at a buffet, I'm gonna take two.
Okay.
Number one, I saw Infinity War at the Cinerama in LA,
Oh, cool.
which was awesome.
Got
And
it.
I know that doesn't count towards what we're doing, but my my favorite thing from the whole 10-year cinematic universe was when after everybody came back from the snap,
Yeah.
the on your left scene,
Yep.
everybody came back. That was awesome. And the crowd loved it, and I thought it was great.
Hmm.
My favorite part, the thing that made me smile from my big fat heart, was when Iron Man saw Peter Parker
Oh,
and he gave him that big old hug.
yeah.
And and it was like
You're
it
getting
was,
chills, aren't you?
I really am, because it was like it was such a sweet moment. It was such an acknowledgement of Tony Stark and the character arc that he had gone through.
Yeah.
It was an acknowledgement of his feelings for Peter,
Right. Well,
as a protege and as a son almost. And then the best part was like, oh, this is nice.
I mean, right, and I
It-
mean, think back to Homecoming, right at the beginning of the film, where he's like getting the door from him, and he's like, "Not a hug, just getting the door
Right,
for
that-
you. We're not
see-
there
see-
yet."
See how far that's come. That relationship came,
Totally.
and that's like, and that's another thing that this particular film franchise has done so incredibly well,
Yeah.
is bring you back to points that sometimes you don't even remember them. You know what I mean? And
But
then
it's just ingrained, and you know
it's
how
just
special it is without even realizing
right,
it.
absolutely. So I love that. I love that. I love that acknowledgement, and I love that because for and we'll talk about this when we get into Infinity War later, but
This is gonna be a long one.
Peter, yeah, it really is. Peter Quill was upset that they lost.
Yes.
Um, old Iron Man would have been like, I can't believe I lost because
Yeah.
I'm intellectually superior. I have the best equipment.
Totally.
But what broke Tony Stark, who he is now, because
Mhm.
up until Iron Man 3, he's Iron Man. But after Iron Man 3, he's Tony Stark
Tony
in
Stark.
a suit.
Mhm.
So what broke Tony Stark was he lost the kid.
Mhm. And that's what he
And
says to Cap when he
the
shows up
very
in Endgame.
first thing when he gets back, I lost the kid. I lost the kid.
Oh, hurts me all the time.
It does.
Hurts
It
me
does.
so much.
And afterwards, post-mortem of the movie, when people were talking about the things like, so Iron, since Spider-Man has Spidey sense, he knew
Right.
what was happening before everybody else, so he
Sure.
could feel it.
Why he could
Nobody
feel.
else could feel it, but he could
Right.
feel what was happening to him, and that was a heartbreaking scene. Somebody told me that Groot, when he said "I am Groot" at the end, he was saying "Dad"
Yep.
to Rocket.
Yep.
That broke my heart.
That was
You know what I
that
mean?
the Russos confirmed that, I want to say, like 2 months after Infinity
Yeah.
War came out, and people were like, "Ah,
Yeah,
why
and
would you tell us that?"
so I mean, like, but at the end of the day,
Yeah,
all the stuff that happened to me, that's the moment that made it
that's
all come together.
mine is pretty close to it all. Close to that moment, I mean, and it's when, and I get the same reaction, clearly not as powerful as the first time, but when I was in the theater watching the On Your Left, everybody shows up, and then it's everybody lined, and Thanos in that moment, like, straight up kind of looks a little worried. He's kind
Right,
of like,
right.
oh, there's a lot of people here, some giant dude over there, like, it's crazy. Everybody's lined up, you see everybody standing together. Cap pulls the hammer in, you see him go Avengers. He says Avengers, pulls the hammer in the background, you can see Tony just kind of look in his direction, like, say it. And I'm like, ah! Like, the next time you watch that, you literally see Tony go, like, he's gonna do it. And he says a symbol. And I remember the audience at Sunray cheering like crazy.
Yes.
And for me, it was like I couldn't, it was like I couldn't see suddenly, because I was just
Something in your eyes.
yeah, so much in
Right.
my eyes.
Mhm.
And it was just like some of the biggest, like, it was just euphoric masterpiece, and it truly was a moment of, like, all these characters from all of these movies all on screen all at once. And I still, to this day, every time I watch that scene, I'm like, I can't believe this is real.
Yeah, and
crazy.
that's the kind of thing when people say celebrities and actors don't matter, that makes me want to give them these hands, because think about in that moment, you're at Sunray Theater, and this movie's playing at every movie theater across the United States of America,
Right.
and everybody in that movie theater is feeling the same thing,
That's true.
and they're all experiencing the same joy, and that's just not something, aside from sports, that happens very often. You know what I mean? Everybody being on the same page
Right.
and experiencing the same joy and experiencing the same emotion. And quite frankly, even in the movies, it's not something that happens very often. I mean, honestly, I think maybe I've experienced that in Star Wars movies and MCU movies, and that's
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. In Star Wars, it felt like it was more of a. I felt like I experienced it more with The Force Awakens, and I think it was because everybody was so ready for the franchise to come back.
Yeah.
And it was more of just happy the franchise is back. I don't remember too many, like, cheers throughout the rest of the films after that.
Right.
Maybe after that fake out about Chewbacca, and then suddenly it opens the door and he's there in the last. And I was about to call it The Last Skywalker, The Rise of the Skywalker, The Rise of
The Rise of
The
Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. But when you see Chewie in that moment, I remember the audience cheering, and I was just like, "Did you all really think he was dead?"
Yeah. And again, like, not even close to the reaction
No.
of what we got here.
And yeah, it truly is like a the world's ending in the greatest way possible. Like, everybody's on the same page and everybody's cheering about it. Like, I still can't believe I got to experience that. And I
it was
look back
beautiful.
at that as, not just my favorite MCU moment, but probably my favorite movie theater experience moment. That, and if I want to take off of what you said and do two, also MCU, obviously, because that's the question. At the end of Iron Man 2, I remember doing the after credits and seeing Thor's hammer. And that was a moment the audience freaked out. And I feel like that was the real first time I got it from the MCU. People going like, "They're doing Thor!" Because nobody thought that was possible, and you just
Right.
see his hammer in the middle of the field.
Mhm.
I couldn't believe that either. And God, look how far we've come.
So far.
It's really crazy. But all right. Since it's gonna be a long one today, we're gonna try to rush some of these trailers. We've got 4 today. Had to be a good amount for today, obviously.
Well,
Starting
yeah,
off,
because we have no time.
exactly. Starting off, we have Free Guy, the new Free Guy trailer by Ryan Reynolds, and I had no idea Taika Waititi was in this film, and then I saw him in the trailer. I had no idea that Steve Harrington from Stranger Things was in this film. Then I saw him in the trailer. Like, I really didn't look at this cast list at all, and then I watched the trailer, and I was like, wow, it's kind of big cast list. I thought it was just Ryan Reynolds like leading this thing.
You know, it sucks that it's so far away. And this is the second trailer that really kind of opens up much more about what the world's going to be like in this game or in
Right,
this movie.
totally.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's a game in a movie.
Right. So it got me way hyped for the movie because
Right.
Lil Rel, is that his name?
Who's his friend?
His best friend.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Lil
his
Rel
name.
Howard is the guy from
He's
Get Out, right?
yeah, it's TSA agent, right?
Yeah. Anyway,
I'll check. You keep talking.
so
'Cause he's funny.
the new trailer it kind of gets you a little bit more in depth to the other people around Ryan Reynolds, because you know Ryan Reynolds is going to be awesome.
Lil Rel.
He's gonna, yeah. So he's very that dude is very very funny,
Mhm.
and you know you're getting glimpses of this movie having some real moments in it, like when he's like, "Do you ever feel like we're not real?" And he's like, "Look, I'm sitting here talking with my best friend, trying to help him through something. What could be more real than that?" I'm like, that's a
Yeah.
moment, and that's
Yeah.
like, I'm really excited to see that, and it's you know, I mean, obviously, I feel like this movie is the 21st century question of sentient being, like things being
Yeah,
sentient as
sure.
far as like Westworld and all this other stuff like that. So it should be pretty interesting. But I feel like I have a very good idea where the movie's going to go based on this new trailer. I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
to everybody because I don't want to put that
You
down
don't-
into
you
people's
don't-
you know, I don't want
right,
them to have
totally.
that preconceived notion when they go in the movie, but it looks like a lot of fun.
I will say if you've seen the first movie and I'm sorry, the first trailer and you were sold, and you haven't seen the second trailer, don't watch the second trailer. Because I watched the second trailer and I was like, this looks amazing. I wish I didn't know the entire plot of the film, but it looks amazing. Like,
Right.
they were showing real moments in that trailer that I was just like, that's going to be like right at the end.
You should, yeah,
And I know
they
it.
should have saved that. Yeah, they should
They
have saved
really
a lot
should
of
have. It's a real shame. I wonder whose like real profession that is. Is like is it somebody's job for a studio, or is it just on a film to produce the trailer?
You know, I honest to God, my whole my adult life, the first
Yeah.
10 years of from time I was about 15 to 25, that's what I wanted to do was produce movie trailers.
Well, it's because like I feel like it should be a very creative and fun and interesting job, and then your whole goal is to make people want to see this movie without giving anything away.
I feel like if I were to guess the way it works based on what I know about my industry, is that there are
Experience.
probably firms that handle it,
Yeah. That they
or it's done
freelance
with
out to.
it's done in house. I mean,
Right.
it would make a lot of sense to do it in house. I mean, maybe like something that the second line director would do or a PA
Right.
would do, and that's maybe how they make their bones. But also, you have to have like a really good understanding of music.
Yeah.
You know what I
sure.
mean? Because
Since trailer has
music
to
makes a
have music.
trailer.
Yep, totally.
Back to MCU. I wanted to see Captain America as soon as I knew it was coming out, but when they put 46 and 2 from Tool with the Captain America trailer,
right.
I was like, if I don't see this movie right now, I'm gonna murder somebody because music makes a difference.
It's truly an art is
Yeah.
is trailer making, and man, when you get one that spoils so much, it's so upsetting.
Yeah, especially for a movie like that. That's gonna be
Yeah, because like if it was a franchise, I kind of already have like ideas of where the movie's gonna go, so the trailer can confirm or deny those. But if it's a movie that it's like a one-off, I kind of already know the plot, so why would I want to see the movie?
well, and also with a movie like that, there's gonna be a lot of like explosions and stunts, and
It's true.
just show that.
Just show all those. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
throw a couple of one-liners in between, and you're good.
absolutely. But
Um,
that's not coming out till December now, so
yeah.
we were so close. We were so close to seeing it. I wonder
Yeah.
if they
Well,
changed it. I wonder if people took this time that COVID gave them and perfected movies. Maybe they thought they weren't done. Maybe they touched them up a little bit.
could
You know what I
be
mean?
like. Do you feel like? Do you think like? Do you feel like if they didn't do that at all with like Black Widow, it'll be like the biggest disappointment ever? Because in our minds, we're like, they gotta be making it better.
Well, I mean, possibly, and
That movie's
we're
done. It's just sitting on a shelf.
it's the thing is like we've been so thirsty for for new movies.
Yeah.
I mean, we might be impressed by anything.
Yeah, for real. So we got another film that I actually saw like a glimpse of the trailer or something, and I was just like, oh, I'll come back to that. And then you were the one on the Newbie Brothers podcast yesterday who was like, watch this trailer. It's so good. And I watched it, and it looks super awesome. It's called Fat Man, and it is I'll let you explain this film. It's
So it, it's really interesting because it's a fresh take on Santa Claus. Now with the I can't remember the name of the animated movie we got
Klaus.
during Klaus. So that was a different take on Santa Claus
That was
as
like
well.
an origin story, cute animated
Right.
film. Loved it.
This is the complete opposite direction. It's like that movie Polar, the one with the guy with the eye, the hitman.
I think I know what you're talking about.
But like it also gives me vibes of are we cool with Mel Gibson again? Are we okay with him yet? Because I still don't know if I'm ready to be in the same movie theater with Mel Gibson just yet. But at the same time, Mel Gibson, despite his flaws, is an incredible actor.
He's really selling it in this film too.
And the idea that Santa Claus is not an old fat guy, but just like this old grizzled guy. And, you know, in the movie, he still gives out presents. He still does the Santa Claus thing, but he's also commissioned by the CIA to find people. And, you know, it's like the opening thing. They're like, how you been doing? He's like, good. Somebody took a shot at the reindeer the other day. And that's when I realized that it was Santa Claus. In the opening, I was like, wait, what? Because, you know, and then he's looking at wrapping paper. He's like, this is what people think I look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's like super interesting. And then, so I guess the plot is basically Santa gives a little rich brat coal.
Right.
And he hires Walton Goggins to assassinate him.
When is he gonna be like a real leading man? He always seems like the side character, you know.
And it's a travesty because he's is
so good.
The greatest.
He's so good.
I mean, there has never been a TV villain better than Boyd Crowder. I don't care. Like he was so good. He was supposed to just be in the first couple of episodes, and they brought him back, and he became a centerpiece of the entire Justified series.
Yeah.
And that's because of the way he played this villain that is like evil, but also so likable. You know what I mean?
Totally. I talk about Community pretty often. Did you ever watch all of Community, or did you?
I never watched any of Community.
Okay, that's a show that I have to recommend to you in general. Just watch Community. It's one of my favorite series ever now. He has a guest role on an episode where they all have to do a polygraph test, and he's like the moderator, and he plays it straight Walton Goggins, and he is so freaking good in this episode, and I love him. And anytime I remembered watching the episode for the first time, and he walks through the door, I was like, Walton Goggins! Yay!
I mean, that's how you feel every time you see him in a movie.
Like Ant-Man and the Wasp, we're talking about it later. When he randomly showed up in that film, I was like, oh, God, this got 10 times better.
It's like one of those things where he's like that reliable safety in the NFL. Like, you don't know his name, but he's always going to cover his guy, and he's always going to make the tackle.
And he's always going to do well.
Right, exactly. But he has a show right now on CBS.
Does he really?
It's called The Unicorn. It actually looks pretty good. My wife and I are thinking about checking it out, but we haven't yet because, you know, network TV area, they have 22 episodes, and it's a little cumbersome, but
it's okay. Watch Community instead. It's on Netflix, and it's really good.
So this movie it looks like so much fun. like a lot of action.
Do you know what the tagline to this film is?
No, what is it?
"'Tis the season to get even."
Oh my god, I love it. I love it.
Their poster looks like garbage though.
Yeah, see, that's gonna hurt him. And honestly, dude, I think Mel Gibson's gonna hurt him.
Yeah, I don't think this is gonna get a lot of traction, but I'll tell you, I watched the trailer and I was like, out of the 4 things we're talking about today, I kind of want to watch this right now.
This is probably gonna be the kind of movie that you can rent on demand while it's in theaters.
Totally.
So, you know, I mean, I'm guessing we'll probably get early access to that. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. Something that I put on the list because I thought it looked really, really cool. They showed a short trailer of it. It's going to be an Amazon Prime show written by the guy who wrote The Walking Dead. It's called Invincible. And I never read these graphic novels or comics because I'm sure they were that before they hit Amazon Prime. But essentially, the plot is it's a superhero who's literally invincible, can fly, punch. He's essentially Superman, from what I could tell. And he has I'm going to guess, late teen son who has the same powers as him. And it's that son becoming a superhero. But it's clearly adult. Like, there's a shot in the trailer where it's just blood and, you know, dude's head getting snapped or something. So it's going to be a very mature show. But it looks really cool. And, you know, they have a shot in the trailer of the father throwing a baseball in the opposite direction of his son. And they're just floating above the world. And he's like, "Can you hear it?" And the son goes, "Yep." And then catches the baseball because it just went around the world. And I'm like, that's so cool. I love it when they take that route. Are you interested in this?
Yeah, the animation looks great. J.K. Simmons in it. I'm in. Yeah. So I'm definitely in on this show. And Amazon Prime has yet to steer me wrong. Jack Ryan, Marvelous Miss Maisel.
The Boys.
The Boys. I really liked The Man in the High Castle. I just stepped away from it, so it's hard to get back into it.
Did you ever watch Good Omens?
No, but actually that show looked really good.
It's really good.
That's it.
I really liked it. It's kind of the same where I'm sitting with like Watchmen on HBO, where it was really, really good, and now like the creators are like, do we want to do a second season or not? And I'm like, the entire first season's about the end of the world, so no, I don't want you to do a second season.
Yeah. I mean, I always wanted to check that out, so
it's good. I think you'll really enjoy it. But Invincible looks great. I'm definitely excited to see it. Something that I saw, I really liked, and I was like, I might put it on the list, but I don't know if Tank would be into this. And then you recommended we put it on the list today. Is Blood of Zeus, a new animated adult show coming to Netflix, done by the same people who did the Castlevania series on Netflix, which is very, very good. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend you check out that show as well. But it's a very adult take on Greek mythology, and dude, this trailer looks intense.
The animation looks great.
Yes.
You know, I feel like the whole thing has a real 300 vibe to it, kind of.
Yeah.
But like the graphic novel, not the movie.
Yes.
So I'm definitely into it, and I'm excited, and I love mythology. It looks like so if you watch the movie Hercules, the Disney version,
yes,
a lot of it was about Zeus's fight against the Titans, and that's what this seems to be.
Yeah, that's kind of where it seems to be going.
Yeah.
And man, I'm so into it. It looks awesome.
Sold. Totally sold.
So that's gonna do it for the trailers. What do you say we get into some news?
Love it.
Okay, so we're going to try to run through these a little quick because for obvious reasons, we got a lot to talk about today. First and foremost, they announced that Disney Pixar's Soul will be on Disney Plus this Christmas. I think people were expecting it to go that route because I don't think they've been marketing it very well. They had, 2 trailers?
Teasers, too.
One was a teaser. One was, kind of half teaser, half trailer. I couldn't really gain much from it. But the fact that it's a full-blown Pixar film, it's kind of crazy that they're pushing this on the streaming service, isn't it?
It is, but it's not.
I mean, given the times, it's not. But I feel like they've just not marketed it at all. Sorry, go ahead.
Are they gonna Mulan it where it's $30 in
No,
addition to the?
no.
So it's just free streaming.
There's no talks of it being premiere access. They're talking about it just coming on the service on the 25th on
Wow,
Christmas.
that would be bizarre.
Well, so I'm sitting here kind of going like they haven't marketed it a lot, and the next big news that we hear is it just coming to a streaming service. I feel like they already know this movie's kind of dead, and that doesn't give me confidence on it. Like at least
Well,
with
here's the
Mulan, they were like, "We're marketing this to hell, and you have to pay us $30 to watch it now."
here's the
Um,
thing. It's because Mulan was almost out
that's
when
true.
all this happened.
Yeah,
Mulan was literally about to come out because we were planning on going to see it.
yeah. I'm trying to remember what the original release date was, like April something.
Yeah, so this wasn't ever close to coming out. We were just getting snippets of this. Now, this is actually kind of a brilliant move if you think about it, because December's the end of the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you buy people Disney Plus subscriptions for Christmas, number one. You buy it for the whole year, and you feel like you're getting your money's worth because you're getting you're getting this movie. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So like, if Disney was smart, they would market this. Hey, buy this movie, and you get the Disney Plus for the whole year.
I
You know
guess.
what I mean?
I
And
guess.
that's to say that not only will this be on Disney Plus, but you'll be able to buy it on Blu-ray.
Right.
You'll be renting it on. You'll be able to rent it on what you call it. So you're still going to make your money off of it. And in this new world, this is the way we're going to be doing movies. I think for the most part. I mean, we
Yeah.
walked in to the movie theater not to go to the movies, but I bought a big old bag of popcorn at Cinemark, and I swear to God, it was this tall and that wide, and it was only $10. So.
That's crazy.
You know, I think we're in a transition phase now. I hope we go back because I love movies and I think they
Yeah, I
belong in
miss the
theaters.
theater.
So I'm not pulling for this, but I think that this is not an indictment on this movie necessarily per se.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's just one of those things where it actually makes a lot of sense to put this in this hole in this basket so
Right.
that you can move on to the next thing because they have a schedule to keep. You know what I mean? Like Disney.
Right.
Disney is Mickey Mouse is a dictator. You know what I mean? Like he's not.
It's the
He
South
doesn't.
Park Mickey Mouse.
He doesn't play around with timelines. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So the next thing up, whatever that's going to be, it's not whatever the next Pixar movie is. That's what they're going to be worried about. They're not. You know, they're going to write this off not as a loss because they're still going to make money from it
Sure.
because you're going to get plenty of people that watch it or get Disney Plus. Because what's Disney Plus for the year? You know, I mean, was it
I have
$100
no idea.
maybe
Maybe.
with Hulu and
ESPN Plus, I think it's called.
Yeah,
Whatever it's
so
called.
yeah, so you got that. So I mean, that's you know, I mean that's a good deal.
I think the streaming. I think the 25th is a really good idea. Now that I think about it, not just for what you said, but also it's a Pixar film, and Pixar does families and
Yep.
tearjerkers really well. And where are people on the 25th? They're with their
With their
families.
families, absolutely.
And I remember there was a tradition that me and my family would do on Christmas and on Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving, we would go to the movies, and on Christmas we would watch a movie later that night after meals. And I promise you, that's the choice many people are going to watch if they have that same tradition. It's like, oh, we
Absolutely.
eat Christmas dinner, let's put on the tearjerker.
Or they're going to say, let's let's sign up for this free subscription. Let's get this free trial for Disney Plus and check out this free movie. You know what I mean?
And then they're going to forget to unsubscribe, and then they're going to have it for 2 months, and then they're going to be like, oh.
yeah. Either way, I'm not worried about Disney running out of money or.
Well, of course, they're not gonna.
Honestly, dude, I'm convinced that Pixar can't make a bad movie because I did not watch Coco, and then I have a feeling you have a bad movie that Pixar made.
I love Coco. I'm just gonna say that so people don't think my crazy eyes were in reaction to Coco. The Good Dinosaur is
okay. See, I didn't see that.
is The Lion King, but not as good. The animation is incredible. I will tell you that. I thought it was photorealistic water. I thought I was looking at a video of water at the opening shot of that film. It's all animated. It's really incredibly well done. The movie's not good. And then you have to take into account like the Cars sequels, which aren't really that great either. But a lot of those
They're not
were
bad
like,
though. And you got to think, you got to keep
Sure.
in mind, it's for kids, man.
True.
It's not
true.
for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I want you to watch Good Dinosaur, and I want to hear what you.
Okay,
think about
I'll
the
watch it.
movie. But first, you have to watch all of Community.
Okay. Seems like I'm going to be very busy this weekend.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got some interesting news that actually just happened. Alan Moore, who is most known for, he's the guy who wrote Watchmen, and we both love Watchmen. He has said that superhero movies have blighted cinema and have also blighted culture to a degree. He says they are perfectly good as children's entertainment, but if you try to make them adult or try to make them for the adult world, then I think they become kind of grotesque. It's essentially saying, making these the way that these films have impacted culture is a bad thing, is essentially what he's saying. He was also saying, he was trying to make comparisons that, like, in 2016, we had the biggest political year that many people weren't happy about, not just in America, but also in the UK. So he was saying the biggest movies those years were superhero movies. So he's like, people were trying to escape the reality to something more simple and remind them of a simpler time in their childhood, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, superhero movies were way bigger before 2016, first off. I don't think the political year had anything to do with it, but go on. It's a statement that we've heard before where creators are saying,
yeah, but not by a guy who created comic books for adults.
Thank you. That's where I'm coming from. He's like, yeah, they're just, they're supposed to be for children. But he's talking about superhero movies are supposed to be entertainment for children. But I'm like, what's different about watching them as a comic?
I hate this purist bullshit of, like, if it's in a book, it's got to be more important. Look, man, I got to be honest with you. Like, nobody has time to read a goddamn book. You know what I mean? Like,
people very much like reading books.
Yeah,
we would rather watch a movie.
I mean, like, I get it that people enjoy it, but, like, I mean, it doesn't automatically discount anything. And first of all, like, there's entertainment value in those things. Like, I don't understand, like, what his, look, I who was it? The director who Scorsese, who criticized comic book movies and then immediately sold out and starred in a Coca-Cola commercial for the Super Bowl. Like, that guy's old school. He's got an idea of how things should be. A lot of these guys are feeling the pressure of irrelevance because of the way the cinema has changed.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So there's a little bitterness in there, and that's what this feels like from this guy, is a little bit of bitterness.
And it's so interesting because he wrote a comic book series about superheroes in an adult context, and it's one of the best written superhero products we've ever gotten. And it's really interesting to think that he's like, yeah, but the movies shouldn't be doing that because the movies should be for children. And he's talking about how, it takes culture as people who remembered the comic books from their childhood, and then they go, I want to forget about everything and go see this movie so I can see these characters that I've grown up with on the big screen doing adult things and feel happy again seeing my characters. But
isn't that why you go to movies in the first place?
Exactly. His entire statement is just confusing because of, like, it's like that line from Batman v Superman. This just in, water wet.
Yeah,
it's like,
I don't want a crawler at the bottom of the movie screen reminding me of what bills I have due, or the problems that me and my wife are having. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that. The reason I go to a movie is so that I could turn my brain off.
Right.
You know what I mean? And enjoy something. Now, there are obviously a lot of movies that have something to say, and you could pick up on that. There are movies that don't have anything. And I personally, I don't judge one or the other, because I am just as happy watching a movie like what's a good movie with them? Well, right. But like a movie that doesn't have anything to say, as I am watching a movie with a message. You know what I mean? Like,
sure, because it's entertainment.
That's all it is. That's all it is. It's not. It's pop culture. It's not real culture.
Right. And and it's interesting that he makes the comparison that in the interview he's saying like these are characters that are 50 years old now being on the big screen and they're having them deal with adult context when it was children who grew up with these characters in comic books and they're taking children's entertainment and making it an adult entertainment. And I'm like, Iron Man was a heavy alcoholic in the comic books. What are you talking about? Like,
and honestly, the comics made that transition long before they made a splash on the big screen. Now, obviously, people have been trying to make superhero movies for decades, and it hasn't really taken. But that's part of the reason that the comics took more of an adult turn. So like in the 80s, like Dark Knight, you know what I mean? Killing Joke, you know what I mean? The Killing Joke is super adult. That's a super adult.
He also wrote The Killing Joke.
This guy can...
It's pretty crazy.
He can duck a sick as far as I'm concerned because...
Whoa!
I mean, this guy, is he kidding? I mean, it's talking about, I mean, like Ninja Turtles when it came out in the 80s was brutal. Right. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't the kids show. These things evolved because kids weren't reading comic books anymore.
Yeah.
That's why they changed. They changed so that the kids who read the comic books in the 60s and 70s would also read them in the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So
you know, it was interesting. I watched this really great documentary on Disney Plus called From Pulp to Pop. And it's talking about 75 years of Marvel and, you know, what Stan Lee did and how the comics, you know, evolved into what they were. And when they were talking about serious subjects, it was because Stan Lee was essentially like they had the Comic Books Association thing to talk about, you know, to essentially say it's safe for children. And it got to the point where he was just like, there's way bigger issues that are happening in the real world and people need to somehow connect it to entertainment. And he just said, screw it. And he had Captain America in Vietnam. Like, that's just what happened. And it evolved for the better for it.
And to say that, I mean, that's patently inaccurate that, you know, comic books are for kids because comic books haven't been for kids for a very long time.
It's true.
You know, now there are
especially modern.
Well, you know, there's probably some that were made specifically geared towards kids.
Sure.
But the Captain Americas, the Batmans, the Spider-Mans, you know, these are, you know, how many? The Punisher? The Punisher was a kid's comic book? Are you kidding me?
Did you not catch that?
That's silliness.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, I wanted to bring it up because it reminded me of the Scorsese discussion, but also it almost hit worse than Scorsese.
It's worse
because it's a guy who has invented comic books and not invented comic books, but created comic books that are so good and very adult. And
I mean, this
guy. The confusion was.
This jackass was making this quote from a computer paid for by adults who bought comic books. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like to make that statement when your entire house was paid for based on comic books that were for adults that later turned into movies for adults.
Yeah.
Is an absolute asinine statement.
It's pretty crazy. But anyways. All right.
Piss me off.
I'm sorry. Let's talk about some cooler things. So real quick to the other MCU news. Doctor Strange has been confirmed to appear in Spider-Man 3. Dude, multiverse. It's happening.
It's good. And then maybe we'll see some different Spider-Mans.
That's what people are thinking, and it's directed by Multiverse of Madness is directed by Sam Raimi, who did the classic Spider-Man films. So
as long as I get a Topher Grace's Carnage, I'll be fine.
That's a really good point. Dude, could you imagine? Oh, Venomverse. Topher Grace.
That wouldn't last very long.
Why can't I remember his name? Topher Grace, Mad Max, Tom Hardy, meet, and they fight. Boom.
It's a short film, by the way.
But yeah, I'm super excited for this because
that'd be fun.
They've already said Electro from from Amazing Spider-Man 2 is going to be in Spider-Man 3, which is already super crazy. And now that they've confirmed Doctor Strange is going to be involved, dude, Phase 4 is going to be the phase of multiverse. I'm telling you, and it's really exciting.
Well, maybe we'll get some of our people that we lost back.
People are also thinking, like, you know, because Marvel, I don't think they'll do this, but Marvel, you know, has famously said, like, oh yeah, originally for Iron Man we were considering Tom Cruise, and originally for Captain America we were thinking John Krasinski, and so people are like, wouldn't it be really weird if they did multiverse and they had different Captain Americas and Iron Mans come in and they're played by those people?
That'd be kind of awesome.
That'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm excited. That's where we're getting into.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Natalie Portman basically almost confirms that the next Thor film, Thor: Love and Thunder, will follow the Mighty Thor comic book storyline, and where Jane Foster is actually dying from cancer and gets the powers of Thor, and that's what, like, saves her. And I'm like, that'll be really interesting to see on the big screen, and it's kind of exciting. I'm excited to see what they'll do with that, if that's the route they're taking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't agree?
I'm staining.
All right. I'm just saying, I think it's pretty cool. But okay.
I'm just saying, every man is an idiot and needs a woman to save him in 2020.
They're not gonna do that though. I don't think so. Right. They're just giving her powers.
That's what they did in the last Iron Man.
That's not what
the last Thor.
That's not what they did. That's not what they did with Thor Ragnarok.
That's exactly what they did with Thor Ragnarok. You couldn't have done it without Valkyrie.
She was just helping him. It wasn't that he couldn't do without her. She was a part of the team.
I will say, though, I like Valkyrie, so it's not a problem for me.
You don't think you'll like Jane Foster if in this movie? I'm just saying, Thor: The Dark World may be awful. That opening with Jane Foster is the best part of the film.
See, here's what I'm curious about.
She makes that film good in the beginning.
Because she's such a great actress.
Yeah.
But I don't know if she can carry off a comic book movie.
She's apparently already like training to get fit, and I don't know. It's in the hands of Taika Waititi. He's the reason why she's coming back, and she's a great actress. Chris Hemsworth is still going to be involved as Thor, probably Valkyrie as well. Like, this movie has everything going for it. So I know you want to keep being a naysayer, but I think what's going to happen is you're going to keep being a naysayer up until maybe the first trailer, or even when the movie comes out. And then you're going to be like, it was really good. That's what's going to happen.
And we'll see. But I thought Thor was with the Guardians, and I was kind of looking forward to that.
Well, so people are predicting that he's going to get dropped off by the Guardians, and they're going to be involved in the movie, like, beginning and end kind of deal, because he's going to be involved with them in Guardians 3, which is going to be in Phase 5. So he will be with the Guardians, and I think they might even name it as Guardians of the Galaxy, which is super cool.
That's a good name.
But, you know, I'm excited for that. I want to see what James Gunn does with Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, should be fun, man.
Should be
a lot of fun.
Should be really fun. All right. 40 minutes in. Let's see how fast we can get through. 40 minutes in. Let's see how fast we can get through Phase 3, Part 2. Starting with a little film. Didn't really do too much. It was all right at the box office. It's called Black Panther.
What? I never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Yeah. This film is huge, and probably, you know, what was it, up until Infinity War, or maybe Endgame, I think it actually did better than Infinity War, it was the biggest Marvel film.
And so good. Just so good.
So good.
From when he's up in the tree at the very beginning, and they shine the light on him, and he looks like a cat up in a tree.
They play that off like it's almost like a horror film. Like it's suddenly it's a Batman film. I do wish that scene. There's picky things I could do with Black Panther, kind of like how the animation in the final fight's a little wonky, and in that opening the scene is really good. But the problem is you can't see anything, but of course because the scene's at night. I wish somehow they worked the way that you could like see the fight, but super picky for a film that honestly is like really, really good.
Yeah, he goes, I never freeze. I mean, that was like the
Oh,
coolest thing. And then of course he froze, which
yeah,
was
because he saw
amazing.
her, yeah,
Yeah.
and oh, dude, the way they
And
play with them,
the
like those characters.
the absolute greatest villain, two of the greatest villains,
You're talking about, yeah,
Claw and Killmonger are just amazing.
yeah,
And Michael B. Jordan in this movie, like, they had to, like, whoever decided, and this is probably something they do, this is probably a movie trick, make him do something ruthless and evil just to remind you that he's the bad guy because he's making such good points.
true,
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
like, so they have to throw in like because otherwise, if he just goes in and tries to get the crown, you don't really know necessarily who you'd be rooting for.
and I think the overall theme of this film is about change and how everybody can impact the world because Black Panther comes into the kingship, T'Challa does, and he talks with his father, and his father, as many kings before, don't really do much outside of Wakanda. They don't impact the world. And then here comes Killmonger saying, "You guys, with the hands of all these people who are being put down throughout the world, could take over the world."
Right.
So we have two extremes, doing nothing and doing everything. And it's up to T'Challa at the end to say, we're ready to share with the world and help make it better without taking over and without giving everything.
But
And I think that's like the sweet spot.
Killmonger, though, his reaction of taking everything over is because nobody did anything to stop any of the things that had happened, any of the transgressions. Like,
Yeah,
as advanced as Wakanda was, they could have stopped the slave trade. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
all these other things that they could have got involved in, and they didn't. So that's a reaction. It's like, well, if we're not going to take any action, then we got to take over.
No.
Surprising that a society as advanced as Wakanda would still have a monarchy is interesting, but I guess we won't get too deep in the weeds on that. But just outside, like, the final fight was a little iffy as far as like CGI goes, and a little bit too much fall fighting for me. But
well, I
honestly,
think the issue is it's how they shot it. They said, let's take two like black suited characters because we have T'Challa in the Black Panther with the purple, and then Killmonger in the black suit with the gold, and then we're gonna put them in an all like dark black purple room. Like it didn't look good, so the animation looked kind of wonky. And apparently that was all like all their fighting is like real, and it was all motion captured, like, or it wasn't straight motion captured. They just like CG'd the suits onto them, and I'm like, so you're telling me the fighting that they're doing is really impressive, but it looks wonky because of the CG?
Yeah, that's a little stupid. We did get a lot of great things out of that movie, though.
We did. I mean, it just opened the door so much for, I think, what's going to be the next phase of inclusion in the Marvel universe as well.
And I mean, it also like opens your eyes to just how sad losing Chadwick Boseman is.
Man, when I rewatched it, and I saw really when I saw him first in the scene, in the first scene about him talking about how he doesn't freeze and all that, it was really somber for me. And then it wasn't until I saw the credits and I saw his name come up that I was like, nope, can't do it. Like, it was heartbreaking. Super heartbreaking.
One of the other great gifts we got from that movie was Winston Duke, who plays M'Baku, who's
good.
Who's awesome. And,
so good.
And I think he's going to be a big, big star.
I think so too. I'm excited to see more of Winston Duke, but Black Panther, I don't think we could say any more like good things about. We could probably talk about that movie for 4 podcasts alone. But we'll move on to another smaller film, Avengers: Infinity War. Dude, this movie did the one thing I really wanted from the MCU in a long time, and it was bring the Guardians of the Galaxy with the Avengers. That's all I wanted. And I remember watching the first trailer and seeing Star-Lord standing next to Iron Man going, I like your plan, but it sucks, so let me do the plan, and it might be really good. And I was just like, they're on screen together! Like, I couldn't believe it.
It just shows you how stupid Star-Lord is. Like, it really illustrates, it really brings home that point. It's that energy, it's young Iron Man energy, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like 15, like I think one of the defining characteristics of Star-Lords that you overlook is that he didn't grow up. You know what I mean?
No.
Like he still thinks of, and so like this leads me to a question: who do you blame more for Infinity War's loss, Peter Quill or the Scarlet Witch?
I'm gonna go with neither because it had to happen. I knew the moment that movie was happening and they said it was a two-parter, I was like, okay, so the end of this movie is Thanos snaps his fingers. I knew it was gonna happen. But
suspension of disbelief time.
Sure,
we're not
sure,
talking
sure,
about
sure.
we're not talking about it's a movie and that there has to be a second one, and we're not necessarily even talking about that for Doctor Strange's scenario to play out, it has to work a certain way. This movie comes down to two people screwing up.
Right.
Peter Quill
and
Scarlet Witch.
So I will use the argument that even if Scarlet Witch destroyed it like way before, like say they killed him like days before.
Not that she didn't destroy it.
Yeah.
The fact that she left to go onto the battlefield and fight instead of staying in and protecting them.
But what I'm saying is like either way, Thanos would have gotten his hands on it. If she had destroyed it way before, she left and he gets stabbed or whatever. Like either way, Thanos was going to get the stone because now he had the time stone. Like
okay,
he could
so
just
no matter what, no matter what, with the time stone, okay.
Her so leaving really did nothing other than finally giving her something to do in the film.
How come nobody ever blamed? I just feel like Peter Quill got off.
Everybody blames Peter. Everybody blames Peter.
But not in the movie.
Like, sure, no. In the film, they're just like, okay, whatever. I mean, it happened.
I feel like Iron Man should have got a tattoo on his cheek that said, "This is Peter Quill's fault." You know what I mean? Like this is because they had him. They had him.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Quill's an idiot.
So I think I've already mentioned to you, if not on the podcast, that my buddy Martin, who you've met, who's a very big defender of Peter Quill and his decision in that film, because it's Gamora is his world, and he doesn't really deal with loss too well. In the first movie, he loses his mom. In the second movie, he loses the only person who he could consider his father. And now in this movie, he has lost the only other person he truly cares about, which is the love of his life. And at the confirmation of that, he doesn't care about anything. So he defends his actions. I will say, however, the Russo brothers, who I love to death, have this really, really bad habit of going, we're going to take this character who is smarter than we give them. They realize the big picture, and we are going to make them dumb for half a second so the movie can happen. They did that with Civil War and Iron Man suddenly caring about his parents, which he has never done throughout all of the films until the beginning of Civil War, and he's like, it's, I wish I got to say goodbye, but I know they didn't make it to the airport, blah, 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 blah. And then, even though he knows Bucky can't control his actions, and he's super aware of that, and he's a genius, he gets super emotional and says, well, he killed my mom, and becomes stupid for a second just so the Avengers can break up at the end. Same thing for this movie. They go, Peter, we need you to be super emotional for half a second so Thanos can win. Okay? Okay.
I disagree. I think that, number one, the stakes being what they were have to matter. You're talking about the fate of the known universe, honestly, versus not the fate of the universe, versus keeping the Avengers together. Now, true, Iron Man never. I don't know, man. I feel like first of all, Iron Man's entire life is driven by trying to make his dad proud.
Yeah, but every time that he talks about his father, he talks about how he hated him because all he did was talk about his accomplishments and Captain America. The only real connection he has with his father's in the movie, I feel, other than what we get in Endgame, is that scene where his father says, "The greatest creation I've ever made is you, Tony." And it's like the only time he ever heard something that special from his father, as far as we know.
But you got to think that his father was just like him.
Exactly like him.
And Tony wouldn't be the kind of guy, if he hadn't had that kind of father, he wouldn't be the kind of guy who would be a doting father, which he actually ends up becoming. And that's some of the most beautiful stuff, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So he never, his mom is his mom, you know, like, it's like, granted, he never talks about how much he loved his mom, but nobody does in any of these movies. Nobody's going around, I love my mom, I love my mom. But when you find out a guy
That's a good point.
killed your mom.
But again, he knows the guy didn't have control of his actions. He knows that now.
Doesn't matter. That's like if a person's drunk or on drugs. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have the opportunity. And let me tell you, and this is something I know a little bit about. If you have the opportunity to harm the person who tried to harm a person that you care about, yeah, you're gonna take that opportunity, unless the entire fate of the universe relies on you not doing it. And couple that with the fact of you're gonna throw punches at a guy who just threw a planet at a person.
Didn't happen yet in the timeline.
Whatever.
But still,
this guy's been taking laser blasts to the face, and you're gonna throw punches at him. I mean, come on, Quill.
I will give him credit because it's something I wanted to touch on that you said earlier. Quill does have that line where he says, like, "Let me do the plan and it might be better." Tony, he breaks down the plan and is essentially, we get the gauntlet from him. And that's it. That's all he says. Like, he doesn't really go into a plan. But then after they do the whole, you know, holding him down, getting the gauntlet, and trying to get it off of him, everything, the first thing Peter says when he lands is, "This was my plan, by the way."
Quill.
Quill says that, sorry. And the other Guardians films have shown that he actually is the plan guy. So I will give him credit. He does know how to make a plan on terms of, like, scrappy technique.
Yeah, but he doesn't know how to stick to it.
I mean, if the love of his life, I guess, is not there, then yeah. It's sad that it had to happen, but again, I'm like...
No, it's not, because it's supposed to happen, because like you said, it's a movie, and the second one's got to happen.
Right.
But if you're looking for somebody to blame, I don't think you have to look any further than Peter Quill.
Okay. Or Thanos, but...
I mean, obviously Thanos.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Did you cry at the end of this film?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You did?
I did, because of Peter Parker.
Okay, his was way more emotional.
Yeah.
I was in the theater, and I heard people audibly like, "No! Well, and I remember thinking, like, people, we already know they're filming Spider-Man 2 right now.
and yeah, they're going to just let $3 billion in box office returns dust away. Yeah. Come on.
I remember sitting there just being like, calm down. Like, I did not shed a single tear because I was like, yep, there it is. No.
I thought the scene was emotional enough.
Oh, sure. And that's where I'm giving you credit. That Spider-Man moment is very emotional and very well done, and apparently improv. So, you know,
oh, really?
Yeah, apparently they just said, like, you know, Peter, you're dying. Go.
Go die.
Go die. You're aware of it happening. Go. But no, it's interesting that people, again, we're in the movie, like, we follow the industry so much that, of course, we're way more aware. But maybe the people who watched that movie, I mean, I watched it with my parents after the movie had already come out on, like, DVD, and they hadn't seen it yet. And my mother was freaking out when Thanos snaps his fingers, and she couldn't believe it. And I was just sitting there like, I love this reaction, but do you not know that there's another one coming? But again, it's like it's really great that people get to have those reactions.
And also, I think people don't expect the good guys to lose ever.
Yeah, and that is I think the most important thing about Avengers: Infinity War. I've said for a long time that I think Infinity War and Endgame are just about even, but I think Infinity War is a better film as a whole because it hits so many more important cues. It says, what happens when the heroes we've watched every single movie, time and time again, win, lose? What happens when we make the final shot of the movie on the bad guy when he wins? Like, I think I told you the next time you watch Infinity War, watch it like Thanos is the main character. And you get, like, almost this weird sense of satisfaction when he wins. Like, because you follow him as the main character. And the ending shot is him sitting there on his garden
Just
farm,
accomplished. Just
accomplished. And the music is sweeping and it's beautiful. But you realize half of the universe is gone. And it's really crazy. But it's so well done that all I'm thinking is like, damn, Infinity War did everything right. Everything.
it's one of the it's a lot like Empire Strikes Back, where the bad guys won,
Yeah.
and you don't know where the good guys go from here.
Yeah, really. Like, and I remember watching Empire Strikes Back for the first time, and I legitimately was like, how do you come back from this?
Yeah.
And Endgame kind of answered that question for the Avengers. But
And then you got Ant-Man and the Wasp.
right,
Which,
that's our next one on the list. Which I always can't remember which one came first, Ant-Man and the Wasp or Captain Marvel. But I guess this is the right order. What I've put here is Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Did you like this film?
yeah, I liked it. I like Paul. I'm a big Paul Rudd fan.
He sells
So
it.
anything with him, plus the Michael Pena scenes are always great. You know what I like about this, and honestly, one of the cool things about the MCU is the way that every film is a different type of thing. Like, these are heist films.
They are.
You know what I mean? Like and that's the way I should keep it. Like Ocean's 11 was superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And Guardians of the Galaxy's Lethal Weapon in space. You know what I mean? Like, as long as they keep doing that formula where every series is its own thing, I think it's good. And it wasn't the best of Marvel movies, but it wasn't Dark World. You know what I mean?
Sure. Some of their humor did not land for me personally. I don't know if you really liked the and I've always said this about Ant-Man and the Wasp. This is the one example I always go to is remember the scene where they complain about Paul Rudd's desk in the office and that goes for like 20 seconds of them arguing what is and what isn't a desk. I remember sitting in the theater going, this is so stupid. Like, I like that it's Paul Rudd and it's Michael Pena doing this, but it's not funny.
Right.
Like, please move on. And they did. But there was a couple of moments like that. But the movie really succeeds, I think, in the action pieces and playing with shrinking and growing.
Yeah.
Like, they do it way more in this movie. Like, remember in the first Ant-Man where he has the keychain of the tank and it becomes a real tank? That was so crazy and so cool. And they went, how about we do that, but it's the entire movie?
I love it. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And
super fun.
Having fun with scale is something that movie should really focus on.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the office building, the big building becoming like a luggage, like it's got the little handle on it.
And it's like, to me in my mind, the first place I go to is when you're in that building, does that mean there's two shafts that the handle thing goes down into? Like I was trying to work out in my head, trying to figure out how that works.
I remember loving when they get into the building. In the background, you see a giant Duracell battery.
Right.
And I'm like, that's so clever. Like, it's that kind of ingenuity in their filmmaking that I love. Like Michael Pena being like, you want some Pez? And he's got the Hello Kitty Pez dispenser that Paul Rudd's daughter gave him. And then she throws it at the motorcyclist and makes it big. I remember seeing that in the trailer and going like, they're gonna do a lot better with it. This movie, I think.
Yeah.
And they did. They really did. The Wasp, her action scenes are very fun.
And I like the stuff like him riding the tow truck like a scooter,
Yeah, when he gets
you
stuck
know,
being big.
and the giant man scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was good. It wasn't as good as the first one, but
No.
it wasn't a huge step down.
I think the Ant-Man series is gonna pull a Thor, and the first
Yeah,
one was okay, fine, good. Second one was I mean, yeah,
mhm.
and the third one's gonna be amazing
Agree.
because
Agree.
the third one, what it's got going for it, is really exciting. Next up, we have Captain Marvel, a movie that I remember walking out of the theater furious about.
Really? Why?
So Captain Marvel was announced very shortly after Wonder Woman did well at the box office.
Hmm.
And I feel like ever since there's maybe Black Panther, Marvel has been trying to actively make up for their lack of representation of women in their films. Very well done in Black Panther. Infinity War has that "You'll Die Alone" just like he did. She's not alone, and then it's Okoye. I was gonna say Scarlet Widow, Black Widow, and Scarlet Witch fighting the one girl, and I
I
thought
mean,
that scene
technically,
was.
you're right.
I
Scarlett
am right.
Johansson.
Uh, what is the line? Steve, America. Sorry, Captain Rogers. Um, they have that great scene of them coming together, and I think that was a little forced, but it worked because they were all there. And then they said, "Here's our new character, Captain Marvel," and the fact that she is a struggling female superhero, we are going to shove that down your throat. Wonder Woman did it with such ease, and it looked so easy, and the movie wasn't about that while also being about that. I think Jordan Peele perfectly said, if you make a movie trying to push a message, it'll come across as forced, but if you make a movie with a message in mind, it will come across more naturally. And I feel like they made this movie with the message of, sorry, we've been so bad with women in our films. Here's a movie with a woman in our film. Please forgive us. And it came across so disingenuous for me. There's a lot of scenes in the film that just don't work. And I remember walking out being very upset about it. But then also when I walked out with my brother and his wife. And his wife loved the film. She was really happy with how they did it. And I couldn't help but think, I gotta put this mindset that I have about it behind me because clearly it's working. Wonder Woman, I think, did it better, but clearly people think Captain Marvel finally did what Black Panther did, and it gave representation to people who have not been represented.
I think the Wonder Woman comparison is a little unfair because Wonder Woman is such a part of our lexicon as a society.
That's true.
That it's come to stand for a woman who can do anything. So you kind of associate that, and it's not something you think about now.
Sure.
I like this movie a lot, mostly for the nostalgia because I'm from the 90s
sure.
as well, so I have a thick case of 90s nostalgia. I do get annoyed when everything feels forced, like the Annette Bening thing felt a little bit forced, because she doesn't strike me as any of the things that she was supposed to be in the movie. But Captain Marvel's Captain Marvel, so you just it is what it is.
Right. But I will say, when I went back and watched this movie with the rewatch, just like with all the other films, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I think those heavy critiques of these films have really died out with how the MCU has finished. So, like I said, that was my first initial reaction to it. After watching it this time, I really enjoyed it. The movie does something that I appreciate so much in that I'm really sick of superhero films where they can do this and they can do that and they can fly, they can shoot laser beams, but it all comes down to fight me, ba 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 ba. And they almost did that in the film when it's Jude Law's character saying to her, prove to me right now, one-on-one, that you, and she just shoots him in the chest and goes, I don't need to prove anything to you. I was cheering. I was like, thank you. Thank you for breaking the cycle. It's just like when Doctor Strange did the Dormammu, I've come to bargain. When she was like, I don't need to fight you, dude. I was like, thank you. You don't.
You don't. You have power. Right.
You blew up a ship by punching through it. Like, you're good. And God, that made me so happy. And that's the kind of attitude I want for her going forward, I guess, where it's like,
it's a winner's attitude.
Right, because I feel like that movie is about her trying to prove herself to people until right at the end she's like, I'm not proving myself to anybody.
Right, that's
and
what
I
it means.
loved that. And if that's the route that they were going, then they succeeded. I guess mainly because I just hated her trying to prove herself to everybody, is what I actually hated. But man, if they do Captain Marvel 2 and she's just like, I don't have time for this BS, I'm going to be happy. You know, when she started flying through those spaceships, I was cheering in the theater. I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. This is what you can do. Anyways, but Captain Marvel's good. We also have Avengers Endgame. Little film. I'm going to keep doing that joke for every single one.
That's a good one. I like that joke. Wow. What a movie. Like, what from top to bottom, beginning to end, you're taking on this emotional powerhouse of a ride. It's amazing.
Did you audibly gasp like the rest of the people in my theater when they did the 5 years later?
I don't believe so. What about it shocked you?
Because of the time difference. Because it literally just went, hey, so they killed Thanos. The stones are gone. 5 years later. And I remember that's the part that I mean, is like that screen to black with it saying 5 years later. I remember people in my theater going, like they can't believe the time difference that it actually took.
I think that's a Hollywood trick, because like the way TV shows, when they focus like 2 seasons on a single event that really happens just over a couple of months, and then they have to catch up with real life time. They send the characters to jail for 3 years, and then it's like they get out of jail in 3 years.
So you think that's what they did? They just went, we have to catch up with like where we are age-wise.
But also, I thought it was a very effective way of expressing, number one, what Thanos did kind of worked.
Right.
Number two, that people are starting to adjust to life. You know, because, you know, you got to think, how long would it take for you to adjust to life after that? It's got to be a while. So, you know, I mean, 5 years later, in the grand scheme of things, isn't really that much longer. You know,
I will say I hated that kid on the bike, where Paul Rudd is walking down the street and he's in shock of what has happened. And the kid rides past him on the bike and he goes, hey, kid, what the hell happened around here? And it's 5 years later, and this kid who has probably lived a third of his life in this goes, and please watch us on YouTube so you can see the face I'm making. And he just rides off. He gives them the most emotional stare and rides off. And I remember watching that and being like, the kid would openly tell him. They'd be like, what are you talking about? Where is everybody? Oh.
I don't know. It's been like this for most of the time I've been conscious as a human being.
Thank you. Like, I remember seeing that in the theater, and I was like, all right, that was a little much, but okay. Please continue.
For those not watching, that was an amazing acting job by our very own.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I get it.
The next Disney Plus series that they're going to be making for Marvel as the kid on the bike.
It's so good.
It is.
And, you know what's weird is how we have such an interesting perspective on it now compared to when it came out.
It's true. Because at the moment we were experiencing it.
The way the world is ending right now, we have an idea of what, you know, not exactly. Obviously that's different. But just like a crazy, an interesting theory of like what could have been, and the fact that you watch Iron Man become this incredible father,
Yeah.
and oh
The way they show how characters have changed past it is very interesting.
yes,
Black Widow is trying to keep the family of the Avengers together because it's the only family she has. So she is
right,
now in charge of the Avengers, just helping people across not only the world but now the universe.
right.
Um, we have Captain America. All the war, I guess wars are over because people are just still recovering from the snap. So he is doing the only thing he can, and it's leading a group circle, which is something that Sam did. Like, that's what he did with the VA. And now
And
here's.
that's
Yeah,
how he pays his respect to Sam, by the way.
exactly. He's
Yeah.
doing the work that Sam would have done.
And what's funny is that I know this is like a stupid thing, and they would never do this in a Marvel movie, but you got Captain America, who's essentially a 105-year-old man.
I know exactly where you're going with this, and I'm not ready for it.
And he's like, he's leading the circle, and this guy, and it actually was one of the directors.
Yep, Anthony.
And
Russo.
he's like,
that was Joe.
I was on a date with this guy, and this 105-year-old guy just takes it in stride and goes, yeah, you just got to put. I'm like, that's not how he would react.
I'm just saying.
I live in this country. I know exactly how he would react.
Sure. I will say though, maybe Captain America being the moral center of the Avengers probably wouldn't have wouldn't have homophobic, racist values. I'm just saying, he's the moral center of the Avengers. They're not gonna go, and he hates these people.
How do you think they justify being homophobic with morality?
Wait, what?
That's how people justify homophobia.
Oh, because they. Oh, gotcha. This
You know
took
what I
an
mean?
odd turn because you wanted to make this comparison.
I'm just saying that it's a bit like that's just something that's sticking. I know they'd obviously never had addressed it,
Sure.
and frankly, maybe with the fact that Captain America has seen all that he's seen, that how big that there's a universe and that there's space, and that
he knows
realizes
there's bigger issues.
Right. But it's like I don't believe that's how he would react.
I will say I was very disappointed when I watched that scene, or at least when I learned about it afterwards, because after I watched that scene, the directors came out and said like, "Oh yeah, Avengers Endgame has the first openly gay character in a Marvel film." And I'm like, and you give it to this background know-nothing side character that's just a director's cameo? I'm sure the LGBT community's very happy about it. Like, how about you make a superhero?
Instead of a guy who's finally getting back around to dating after 5 years.
Thank you.
No, I get it, and you're right.
It bothered me so much because they wanted to pat themselves on the back again. They wanted to go, "We did it," and I'm like, "No, you didn't."
It's like saying, you have one car on the lot that doesn't run. It's like, what? I don't know. I ran out of metaphors, but you're right. The fact that saying that's in your movie and bragging about it is a little bit ridiculous when you have a team full of superheroes and you make a guy with a story about a salad, supposed to be your centerpiece.
He's the one you want to really congratulate when it's really just the director's cameo.
Right.
Anyways, but I love Avengers Endgame. We got to talk about something that you wanted to mention last week, but we were like, we're gonna have to get into it next week. Fat Thor.
Fat Thor.
Please, Tank. The floor is yours. I know you are a scholar in
fatness. Yes.
I was gonna let you continue.
So, like, here's the thing. Like, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And I think in the beginning, it works as like as a gag. I wanted him to unfat towards them, like when he lightning strikes and gets his beard and cleans up. I wanted him to become unfat, but I hate that he turns over his crown.
You don't like that?
I don't.
Really? But I think that's the whole message his mom's trying to give him is like, stop trying to be the person that you're meant to be and just be you. Because Thor's clearly doesn't want to be king. He's never wanted to be king. After the first movie, he's like, I'm done with that.
I get it. It's just also it kind of seems like his duty. You know what I mean?
Sure, I mean, that's taking the great Norse mythology of it all into stride. But again, it's like he's failed his people now twice in his mind.
But he's bestowed with this immense amount of power.
Yeah.
So that he could rule. You know what I mean? Like, I think that shirking that responsibility doesn't make him noble. It kind of makes him a bit of a coward, in my opinion.
Interesting. That is a very interesting take. I feel like the movie is essentially saying, you know, or at least for his character arc, is saying, if you don't want the responsibility, or if you don't want the responsibility of something you don't want to do, then just do what you want to do.
Yeah, but like, how irresponsible of a message is that? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
If you don't, so king comes from Tsar, Tsar,
right,
which is father, Caesar, father. It's all the same thing.
Right.
So when you're a king of a people's, you're their father, their protector.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's what, at its core, that's what it's supposed to mean. And you don't just get to decide that you don't want to be the king, the father, the protector of these entire peoples anymore, especially after what you and they have been through. You know what I mean? Like I thought, my opinion, after Ragnarok, he was kingly.
Oh yeah, and they tried to build it to that.
And that's when I liked him best.
Mm-hmm.
Not when he was damaged, not when he was fat Thor. I thought that. Now, I will say that was a brave move. That was funny, poignant. Really showed you just how devastated he was.
Yeah.
You know, by his loss, because he took such a great responsibility of it upon his own self, which is unfair to him.
And they go into his emotional strife way more in Infinity War as well, where it even talks about how, oh yeah, I lost my mother, I lost my father, I lost my brother, I lost my planet, and I lost half of my people.
Right.
Like, he's broken then. He comes back to do the duty that he was meant to do and slay Thanos, and he fails. And Thanos wins.
But the sacrifice that he made to give up Asgard in Ragnarok. Now, and I think Ragnarok might be the movie that I've seen the most in the Marvel Universe, honestly.
Interesting.
But him making that decision, to me, is the most regal thing that he could have done, because he put aside his pride of, this is my land, I have to not let somebody else have it, and he said, my people are the most important thing. And when Anthony Hopkins bestows that responsibility to him when they're having that talk in the field, to me, that is like, okay, you're the king now, and that responsibility is not something you would take lightly, and that responsibility is not something you can hand to an alcoholic Pegasus rider. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that you have to do, and even though you've had a rough couple of years, you still have to, So
I guess my counter argument would be, is the decision of him destroying Ragnarok for his people, the very kingly, important decision he had to do, is that not as important as him realizing that he's not the leader these people need, but it's Valkyrie, who's been doing a much better job in these past 5 years than he has, because he's been too into his own self worries to focus on his people?
I see what you're saying, and it's a good point, but no, because up until that point, especially in Thor 1 and 2, he didn't have what it took to be the king.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like, he had a lot of growing up to do, and his ego and his pride and things like that. And
that was
and
the
his
first
father,
movie, and then the second movie was because he cared too much about an Earthling,
right?
And not about kingly deeds.
And his father knew that, and so the fact that, I mean, yes, that is a good move, but also the move, instead of you know, it's and again, this is a father thing. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? This is so you can't go to a stepfather and be like, look, I've been screwing up lately. You're his dad now. I'm just gonna walk away because that makes you a real piece of shit.
So I guess what I'm gonna ask next is, how do you think they could fix this decision that Thor has made? Do you think that his journey of discovering himself and who he is not over and may actually end regardless with him back on the throne after
No,
he goes through this next couple of set of movies?
no, because number one, he with the Guardians of the Galaxy is pretty funny. It's comedy
They're
gold.
not gonna give that up, is what you're saying.
There's that, and also kings are so 20th century. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Slay Queen. You know what I'm
What's
saying? Like it's 2020, bro. Like
Yeah, sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to, kind of give him back the title, or maybe they'll go into a little bit more of why it was important for him to give it up.
I think no, I think we're done with that conversation. I honestly do. I think
Okay.
because of how light these movies are now with Thor. Thor's
Right.
movies are a little lighter now. Now, like just think back to the end of Ragnarok when he's on the ship and he's sitting in the throne. He's holding the scepter with one eye, looking like his dad. He's got
Yep.
the people
Totally.
behind him. He's got his people at his side. That's the Thor I want. Fat Thor is hilarious for a little bit, but I want him on a treadmill, on a throne. That's where he belongs.
I real quick, I do want to also talk about Fat Thor. I think it was very well done as a gag, but also to kind of talk about how people in depression, rot situations will treat themselves afterwards. But I
Mhm.
wanted to say that his depression and like panic attacks that he has in that movie is so nice for his character because
Mhm.
he has gone from a ego-stricken god to, I mean, if you think about it, he's the one who has failed the most in the MCU,
Mhm.
out of any character, and he's the one who thinks he's the most powerful and strongest Avenger. And to think that he has failed this many times, that is what's putting so much strain on himself. And I hated the moment in the movie where he starts having a panic attack and Rocket Raccoon just slaps him in the face and tells him to get his shit together and that there are more important things on the line than himself. And all I'm thinking is like, that is not how you handle people with a panic attack. Like that's really, really bad shit to show. So then Rocket runs off. He keeps having his panic attack, and then he talks with his mother, who makes him feel like he can do what he wants and can redeem the losses that he's had, and to just add the icing to this beautiful characterization cake is him getting his hammer back to see that he's still worthy, and that's
That
almost the word of his dad that he needed right then
yeah,
and there.
that was a big moment. Because he definitely. So when he lost his hammer, even though in Ragnarok his dad's like, look, the hammer was just a conduit. It doesn't matter.
Are you the god of
Uh,
hammers?
exactly. Great impression.
Thank you.
But that validation that he's still worthy,
Yeah.
even though he's failed, makes all the difference
It's
in the
it's
world.
it's not so he can get the hammer, which thank God he got it so we could have so many great moments afterwards. But it's the validation from the
Yes.
hammer and more importantly from his father that even in this state that he's in
Hmm.
Fat Thor and self depression and no self confidence and self esteem, and he's having panic attacks, he
Hmm.
is still worthy. And that is the message that, I mean, they do it in a very quick moment, but I almost wish they sat on that longer just so they could really show people how important it is that, like,
Right.
even if you don't think you're enough, you can be.
Yeah, dude.
Just like Thor.
And to the point of, I mean, like quarantine hit us all really hard.
Yep.
Dude, I'm sitting here fucking packing on weight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like crazy. And that's I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm depressed, but I'm definitely, not in my best mental state because
Not in a
of
better mental
everything.
state than before it all.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's a very important message.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Rocket is Rocket's one of my favorite characters in the whole MCU
Yeah.
because of his cantankerous,
His personality.
attitude.
Right.
But I mean, it is what it is. You're right. That's not the way you handle that. But
Right. And showing that was probably not good. It was a good like comedy moment, but I think I talked with my buddy again about it, and he kind of mentioned like, oh, I think they showed that it didn't work from Rocket, and that his mom's method worked.
mm,
And I'm like, they did show that, but they spent way more time on Rocket saying, I've lost family. Everybody's lost family. Get it together. Nobody cares about you. Blah, 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 blah. And then it was like, his mom shows up and goes, you are good. And then, like, the time difference between those two just infuriates me a little bit. But that's why I was like, they should have spent more time on that worthy moment. But it was still very much appreciated. We've been talking about this movie for a while. We've been talking about all these movies for a while. We're at an hour 30 now.
that's long.
Yeah, we're gonna try to wrap it up real quick now. Avengers Endgame, great film. Obviously,
I'm gonna watch it after this.
Oh, are you good? Tell me how you enjoy it, and then after that, watch Community. So the last film in the MCU, which I kind of hate that it's the last film because the Avengers Endgame should be the last film, is Spider-Man: Far From Home. But I think this movie is very important because it's supposed to show what does the MCU look like now after the events of Endgame. The half of the population has disappeared for 5 years and just randomly come back. And they touch on what an Iron Man and Captain America less world looks like. And, they have that great gag of Flash Thompson trying to get a drink in the airplane. And MJ's like, he was actually blipped, so his driver's license is wrong, and she like takes the drink from him. Really clever stuff, really
right.
great like ways to play with like how does this world look now? But I think the most important lesson that this movie does is they go, is Spider-Man now the next Tony Stark? And they ask him that in the beginning. They say, are you the next Iron Man? And that is such a big question.
Yeah, it's such a large suit to fill, and I think that the movie does a great job of answering it in a way that it says nobody can be Iron Man because Iron Man
Right.
was unique. But when the world needs somebody, then yeah, he could be there.
He can be the next Iron Man when they need him. And that's, I mean, he doesn't want the responsibility of this fight that is happening, and he doesn't think he's good enough to be the next Iron Man. And it's Happy Hogan, the man who frickin' dodges him all throughout the first Spider-Man film, who literally is the one telling him that you're the next Iron Man, because they are in that like jet or whatever, and it's when he's making the next suit that he looks at him and just smiles, and Peter looks back and is like, what? And Happy's like, nothing. I got the music. And he turns on AC/DC.
And he goes, I love Led Zeppelin.
Oh, sweet. I love Led Zeppelin. And of course, the song that they play is Back in Black, and then his suit is red and black, which I thought was awesome. Dude, I love this movie. Mysterio, very well done.
Totally.
I did not know how they were going to handle him, and they killed it. He is so good in this movie. And I'm just gonna say, those glasses that Tony gives to Spider-Man with Edith,
Yeah.
I really love those glasses. I think they look awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they look kind of douchey.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
For those listening to the podcast, go to our YouTube and you'll see that I own a pair of those glasses.
Controlling Edith.
Controlling
It's
Edith.
How irresponsible is it to put something in sunglasses, the most misplaced item on the face of the earth? Number one.
Is Brad a target? Yes. Would you like to execute Brad? Yeah. Wait, no, no, no. That
But
scene
like,
where he jumps out of the moving bus and he like webs the drone coming at him. So good. So
I,
good.
I don't know if I own that movie.
Well, it's not on Disney Plus. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that.
it's just Sony.
I had to buy it to rewatch it.
I might have to buy it because I don't know if I have it or not.
It's good. It's really good.
But yeah, a great movie. Like you said, Mysterio was great. Really well done. I like it when movies take things that are supposed to be supernatural and give you practical explanations for them.
But I mean, that's what Mysterio is in the comics. He is a
Right.
special effects trickster. Like he uses like fireworks to distract people and make them think it's a bigger deal. He is a farce.
Right.
And they did it in the most modern way possible. They said holograms, and he's literally wearing the suits that they wear on set to give Spider-Man his outfit. It's so clever. It's so
really is
well
clever.
done. Also, let's just really quick. Spider-Man, they explain his Spidey sense, and he's like having trouble with it the entire movie, and the end fight all comes down to him closing his eyes and beating Quentin Beck with Spidey sense.
It's like Bloodsport.
It is like Bloodsport.
Kumite.
But Spider-Man Far From Home, so good. After I rewatched it, I have to say it's probably the best looking Marvel film. The animation and special effects in that movie are incredible.
Also, Night Monkey is hilarious.
Night Monkey is hilarious. I do hate that suit, though.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I don't like it. And then he keeps commenting and is like, yeah, the suit's fine. I really like it. I'm like, it's kind of lame. Anyways, so that's it for the MCU. Boy, it's been a long ride. Boy, this is an hour and 40-minute podcast. Are you cleaning your hands? Are you washing your hands of it?
I'm doing what the blackjack dealers do when it's over. You make sure there's nothing up their sleeves. All over.
Dude, it's been a lot. Real quick, top 3 of the MCU. Go.
God.
Sorry if I
Iron
put you
Man
on the spot.
Iron Man 1, Infinity War, Endgame.
Yeah. I think the same. I'm not gonna lie. It's Endgame gives me too many of those happy moments, and Infinity War gives me Guardians and Avengers mixed together, and Iron Man 1 is just classic.
I tell you, I saw $1 Million Baby at the movie theater, and I thought I cried hard that night. But when Tony Stark died, I cried harder.
You know, I didn't cry
Really?
when Tony Stark died because I knew it was coming.
Did you?
And I am Iron Man moment was so great, and it was so special. And I didn't know that was coming, but I knew he was gonna die. And then I did not cry in the theater, but I went home that night and I sobbed like a baby because I knew Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. was not going to be in any future movies. I'm gonna be honest with you. But all right, real quick recommendations. Do you got one?
Yeah, I do. Now, this is originally pissing me off that everybody's on Cobra Kai now because it's on Netflix. But as an early adopter, I got to be forgiving and encourage people to watch it because it's so good and so well done and so lovingly nostalgic to the source material.
Right.
And season 3 is coming up in January, so you have until January to watch the first 2 seasons.
Get it done, people. My recommendation is a show I think I've talked about once or twice before on the podcast. It's called Community. I changed my recommendation right at the start of the show the moment I started talking about Community, and you said you hadn't seen any of it. I'm like, this show is too good. It's on Netflix. They got all the seasons. They took out 1 episode, but it's okay. It's still a really, really great show, and you should watch it.
Got it.
Please watch Community, everybody. It's really, really great. I cannot talk about this show enough.
Apparently.
All All right, that's gonna do it for this week's podcast. Sorry it's so long. Maybe split this up a couple of times. Well, I don't know why I'm telling you now. All right, that's gonna do it for this week. How are you feeling, Tank?
I feel great, man. I love talking about these movies, and just a huge part of our lives.
Yeah, I feel tired because we've been talking about them for so long. But I think that is going to do it for today's episode. I know it's going to do it because we've been sitting here too long. Once again, I am your host, Stephen Austin.
I am your co-host, Tank.
Ooh. And we will see you next time, guys. Thank you so much for enduring this ride with us. Bye!